Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of Opinionated Diva presents Plenty of Tiff. I am your girl, Tiffany, aka Opinionated Diva, and let's get started. So, for any of you who actually watched this, I don't know what to do with myself. So, at first, when I was doing this, I was using cue cards, right? And that was working. But then I felt like I was making so many notes that it just wasn't working for me. I didn't, and I know how some people can just put like one letter, one word, and they're able to talk. That is not me. I need to actually have my thoughts well written out. So then I said, you know what, Tiffany? I started printing them on larger cue cards. And so I would just write my notes out. I would go print it and then I would put it on my cue cards. So then I was like, I don't feel like doing arts and crafts projects before every episode. So then I said, Tiffany, you know, Amy Poehler, who I love on her podcast, she always has her laptop in front of her. I'm not sure if she's looking at notes or what she's doing, but I like that idea, but I don't have a desk. Well, I do, but I don't want to use my desk for my podcast setup. I like what I have right here. So my question is, what should I do? Should I like get a mini desk so that it sits like that? But is that going to be distracting to you all unless I put it out that way? Like, I need suggestions on how I need to have this look because I think I want to use my laptop for my notes. So there's that. But anyway, moving on. Let's get to the diva drop of the week. Obviously, it is Rihanna and the Fenty Mayer's family. Or is it Myers? I'm not really sure how to say ASAP Rocky's last name. This past week, there was a scary security breach at Rihanna's Beverly Hills property in California. Picture this, okay? It is a quiet Sunday afternoon in Beverly Hills. Actually, you probably can't picture it, and neither can I because we live in Brokeyville over here. But just imagine, okay, just imagine. ASAP Rocky and Rihanna are in a trailer on their Beverly Hills property. Yes, a trailer. We love a grounded queen, honey. So, okay, girl. But she was there with her family, her 3 babies as well. And on the main property in the main house was her mother and other staff members. And so they were just, chilling on a Sunday afternoon. And suddenly all of their peace was shattered. A 35-year-old woman named Ivana Ortiz, I think she had another name, but I can't even say it because it was something weird. She apparently drove all the way from Florida to Beverly Hills, pulled up there with an AR-15. Yes, I'm talking about a semi-automatic assault weapon. And she actually did shoot at the house. Bullets actually hit the property, hit the gates and the walls and even the neighbor's house. So this was a real threat, okay, on Rihanna's life and her family's life. This girl was driving a Tesla, a white one. The LAPD tracked the Tesla down to Sherman Oaks Galleria and they took her in. And she's now facing 14 felony charges, including attempted murder on Rihanna and her family's life. This is insane, is it not? So here's where it gets interesting about this young lady. Ortiz is a licensed speech pathologist out of Orlando, Florida. I guess she decided that since she can't help people find their own words, that she just let her semi-automatic do the talking. Bad joke, but hey, I have a zinger. But this wasn't random. It's been years in the making with this person because she has a history of posting unhinged content and videos targeting Rihanna, Cardi B, and even Billie Eilish. So she was talking in these rants about Rihanna stealing her thoughts and, all this crazy, weird stuff about what's going to happen to her when she dies. Rihanna, not her. So this was premeditated, and she is stalker slash obsessed with Rihanna to the point that she drove literally all across the country in a white Tesla to pull the trigger. But let me find out that speech pathologists can afford a Tesla because my best friend, Shamika, is a speech pathologist, and she's been one for quite some time. Are you hiding out on the funds? Let me find out that I'm questioning your loyalty, girl. So seriously, this brings up a bigger conversation when it comes to security and I would say high profile neighborhoods, right? Or wealthy neighborhoods. Rihanna was in a trailer on her own property with her man and her 3 kids and somehow in a gated community clearly, and somehow she still got her house shot up like she was living wherever they do drive-bys, honey, okay? If a gated mansion in Beverly Hills isn't safe. What is that really saying in general? But then that begs the question, should these high-profile neighborhoods get extra protection from the city of Beverly Hills, Los Angeles County? Not really sure what county it's in. Or is this a safety and added luxury of security that you need to add on your own, right? Privately. On one hand, celebrities do pay massive property taxes, right? So shouldn't they get the same protection as everyone else? But on the other hand, when you have $1 billion net worth, not just singling you out, Riri, anybody rich, top 1%, but I am going to go top 20%, okay? Should the public be footing the bill for your safety? And I think it's really one of those questions where, of course, the city has a responsibility to keep all neighborhoods safe. But when you're in these high profile areas, I'm not really sure if they have added security that maybe the property pays for or the management companies pay. I have no idea how that works. I mean, it's above my pay grade and my lifestyle. But for that to happen, it was just really scary. And like Rihanna is like, she's part of the culture, honey, and we care about her deeply. Whatever the case, Ortiz need her ass beat straight up in jail for shooting in a home where she knows not only a woman lives, but her children, including an infant. She need her ass put through the ringer for that alone. For that alone. Mental health crisis aside, it's unacceptable. And I'm sure the system has failed her too. I'm really sure it has, but not enough for her to drive her crazy ass across the country, probably over 3,000 miles, in a Tesla no less, paying for high ass gas. Girl, where you getting this money from? Are you getting disability checks and a speech pathologist? I want to know. But here's the thing about all that. Speech pathologist got a Tesla, was able to pay gas. I'm sure that gas costs in the hundreds, if not thousands, to get across the country to be able to do all these videos. And honestly, honey, if she was in her home looked kind of nice. But all of that, and you couldn't afford an attorney, right? She has a public defender. Go figure. So in court, Jamarcus Bradford entered a plea of not guilty at first. But then he withdrew that plea in favor of postponing arraignment until March 25. So she had her hearing, and then they postponed her arraignment. So she was held on $1.8 million bail. So what's interesting about this is, okay, so her public defender, basically, he said, okay, she didn't do it. Wait, I walked that back, but let's postpone. I don't know what kind of story you're going to come up with next, but that's one hell of a legal strategy. So let me know how that pans out. Good luck, girl. Not. Now to the shine, shade, or side eye. This is like my favorite segment. So I know that 99.99% of all of my segment topics have to do with celebrities in some form. And I have news for you today because this one doesn't. Well, pseudo doesn't. Kinda, a little bit. But let's get into it so you can kind of understand where I'm going here. Today, on this episode, we're going to head uptown in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, okay? Moving on up to the East Side. But not to a deluxe apartment. We're going to a deluxe elite private school called the Spence School. If you're not familiar with Spence, it is an elite private all-girl school where their motto basically is, if you have to ask the price, you can't afford to go there. But I did some digging, of course. So for the 2025-2026 school year, the tuition is $70,000. You heard me correctly, $70,000. Honey, that's for kindergarten. That's without your blazer and whatever uniform they make you put on. 70 off the rip, okay? But for that price, you would expect a little discretion. So they are in the news. And actually, if you live in New York, you've probably seen it. They've been in the news a lot. But they do have a celebrity connection, so I'll get there in a bit. But Page Six blew the lid off of this elite private school when they reported on the Spence affair that has been going on. So for months, an anonymous person has been posting flyers in and around the school about two high-level staffers who are having an affair. Now, they did name the staffers by name, but Page Six blurred their names out. So I'm not really sure who the staffers are. But this person has been dropping breadcrumbs, honey, for months. So just picture yourself on a nice, cold school morning, dropping your kids off, honey, and you're coming to that. Imagine. What happened, and apparently this affair is not only illicit, it has been long and ongoing, okay? This made news because the secret identity apparently has been identified. Now, again, I don't know who the actual cheaters are. Peter Guns, I know you host cheaters. Find out who they are, okay? And let's get an episode going. But apparently it is the father of the scorned wife, grandfather to their children. Now, again, it was not reported whether this child goes to the school, but I can only imagine they do. I can only imagine that the child goes to that school too. So it's just messy all the way around for everybody involved, including the little baby, the kiddo. I don't know how old they are, but still. The side eye isn't for the scandal itself because, we like mess here at Plenty of Tiff. It's the audacity, okay? So imagine paying $70,000 for tuition just to have your school's environment literally mimic an episode of Vanderpump Rules behind the scenes. That's what it's giving, right? Is it a school or a soap opera? I mean, for me, I love both. But at these prices, I do expect matriculation, okay? And not notifications from page 6. So remember I told you it does have a pseudo-celebrity angle? Well, because it is an elite Ivy League private school, some celebrities have passed through the hallway. So anytime something happens about this school, they always bring up these specific names, which is Gwyneth Paltrow and Kerry Washington, because they were alumni from that school. You probably may not know, but Megyn Kelly, remember her? I actually don't remember her, but whatever, you can forget about her, to be honest. But she had made the news back in 2021 because she blamed the school for being woke and far left because some teachers were passing around some communications about George Floyd, and it was around that time, and they were saying basically that these schools are raising cop killers. Where is the lie? Because all of the cops that have been killers did go to school at some point. But anyway, so she moved out of New York City and is raising her kids somewhere else. Honey, goodbye and good riddance, please. When they put celebrities and drag them into these kind of things, it makes the mess more high profile than it is. But clearly it got to page 6 and is making rounds on the internet. So page 6 might know what they're doing here. Okay. So I'm with it. So here's the thing. Although this is Shine Shade or Side Eye, my segment, I am going to need Spence School to read the room. If the parents are whistleblowing and the staff is carrying on, honey, what exactly are those core values that these parents are paying for in their tuition fees? Holla at your girl. Let us know. Now, I'm saying all this passing judgment. I am a girl that is public school system through and through, honey, K through 12. And I went to a public institution, but I'm a Tar Heel born, I'm a Tar Heel bred. And when I die, I'm a Tar Heel dead. Go Tar Heels. And we know what you say about Duke. But because I was reading up on this mess, I have become fascinated. The biggest scandal that comes out of public schools, especially in my day, was pulling a fire alarm because you didn't want to go to class, or the cafeteria running out of the square frozen pizza. And honey, that caused a scandal because it was actually good back in the day, even though we still don't know what that meat was. Was it sausage, hamburger? We really don't know. Pepperoni? I don't know to this day what that was. Here, the scandal actually stood out because, honey, they were having an affair. This is actually going to be a movie, a Lifetime movie. I can already see it. So this made me, what other scandals have gone on across the country? And so this one particular one stood out to me, right? Because I don't want Spence to get all the shine. So there was a wealthy neighborhood district back in Philly, right outside of Philly. This was back in 2010, so like 16 years ago. But it was a private school that handed out MacBooks as part of their tuition. But honey, what they didn't tell the students and their parents was that they could remotely log in to those computers and access their webcam. So there was a young student, they gave his full name in the article, but I'll just say Blake, because honey, Blake probably living his own life now in college or beyond. So his teacher or somebody caught Blake eating some kind of suspicious candy. I'm not sure if that was a gummy or a weed edible. I'm not really sure what it was, but they caught him eating it. And they tried to discipline him by showing the video as evidence. And the parents are like, honey, how did you even know he wasn't even in class at the time? This ended up, of course, causing a scandal, and the school ended up having to pay over $600,000 in settlements because, well, peering into children's bedrooms is an illegal no-no at least, and at most it's pervy and pedophiliac. So I don't know why they would even think that was okay to do. But anyway, so again, I'm a public school girl through and through. I want to open the floor up to you. Are you a private school girly or guy or other? Are you a private school person? Did you go to a parochial school anywhere? Right? I don't care if it was in New England, honey, in Florida, in Texas, in Iowa, or in Oregon or California. If you have a story, I want to hear your drama and possibly your trauma. Now, for Read the Room, you know what I'm finding that's actually pretty interesting and ironic? When I started this podcast, I really started it as something that was fun and lighthearted, and people could just get away from all the craziness that was going on in the world. So I just want to take what's interesting in the internet, but then I can put a fun spin on it, right? That's what I originally started this for. And then even take it back a little bit further, and nobody take my idea because I'm going to sue. Originally, what I wanted to call my podcast was Tiff Does ... And I wanted to just take everyday local celebrities across the country or maybe even the world and just highlight them and interview them. And so I still may do that at some point in this podcast if I maybe get a segment for that, like Tiff Does ... But I have to get my guest list up, honey. And as you can see, we are a party of one at Plenty of Tiff right now. But I put up a post once, recently, of course, and it was, I won't get into what it was about, but it was a very serious matter, right? And it had to do, of course, with racial identity and racial blunders, I'll say. And I said my piece about it, but that one thing garnered me so much more views and attention than when I post about anything else, even celebrity related, which is crazy to me. But anyway, moving on. My Read the Room this week is no different. Okay, I wanted to be fun, but Read the Room is talking about Target. Target, you still have a target on your back, despite what people may be saying in the internets, okay? And today we're talking about a story that has a community completely divided. This week, Pastor Jamal Bryant stood at the National Press Club in D.C. and officially called an end to the Target fast, which was a boycott triggered by Target rolling back their DEI initiatives in early 2025, which just so happened to coincide with the ushering in of our new White House administration. So Pastor Bryant in this press conference claimed victory over the fast and that basically the boycott's over. So he says the boycott forced Target to stay true to its $2 billion pledge to Black businesses and reach a 13% minority board representation. So when I read that, I immediately knew. I was like, Tiffany, 13%, there's something shady about that number altogether. So I went to the website at Target and I want to do some math. I want to do some math here. So there's a book called How to Lie with Statistics. And as someone who literally took Math 101 in college and barely skated through and literally dropped Econ 101 because the math just wasn't mathing for me, I'm going to do some math for you right now. So let's get into it. 13% minority representation on a board kinda makes sense if you have a large board. So let's say you have 50 people, but even then, that's only 7 people that are required to come up with that 13% minority representation. Do you know how many board members Target has as of today? 14. 14. So do the math. 2. Out of 14 people, there are 2 people representing minorities. So if you call that a victory, okay. Even on top of that, not to mention the entire board itself says 14. It's made up of 10 men, including the two minority representation that they so boasted about. And the most I can give Target at this point is that women represent approximately 29%, 30%, because it's 4 of them. And if you call that progress, call me regression Tiff. That 13% means zilch to me. Literally. Go look at the board and you'll see all you gotta do is look at it and you'll be like, oh, okay. Essentially what Pastor Bryant is saying is, we checked the receipts at Target and it's time to move on to the next fight. That is not how this goes, Pastor Bryant. Because one, they didn't meet all the demands, which was depositing $250 million across 23 Black-owned banks to help them scale up businesses. This is one that Bryant admitted is still in progress and not fully met, but he says the fight continues and honey, blah, blah, blah. But in the original demands, there was one about them rolling back DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So according to Bryant, he's basically saying, well, they did do that just by another name. So Target took back their DEI initiatives and created a program called Belonging, the Belonging Program, which basically, you can look it up, but it's more general in their inclusivity as opposed to targeted according to them. When you say it's the same thing as DEI just by another name, I'm going to disagree with you there, because if you really believe that, you can say, well, a rose by any other name still smells sweet, right? But in this case, a Venus flytrap by any other name still kills you if you're a fly. So take from that analogy what you will. To me, Target is persona non grata. Look it up. Now, if you look at the stage, right, when they did a press conference, it wasn't exactly mission accomplished, because there were 2 other people that was in this fight with him on the Target fast. Initially, it was Tamika Mallory and Nina Turner, who were both activists, and they were there with him. But it was clear that these 2 ladies weren't ready to go on the Target run just yet. So Tamika was very vocal that while the economic pressure did work, Target lost about $12 billion in business after this, right? The company still hasn't issued a public apology for the harm that they caused. She's not going back, and Nina vocalized the same thing, that she's not going back either. And then when you think about it, because if you go online, you can see there's this back and forth about, well, who really started the boycott? Did it really start in January 2025? No. In Minnesota, which is where I think Target is headquartered, the founders of that movement, Nakima Levy Armstrong, she basically said, who told Pastor Jamal Bryant that he was the leader of this? They're calling this a sellout for crumbs, honey, and are telling everyone to double down on the boycott because the actual DEI policies have not been restored. So the Belonging Program is not DEI initiatives. They're not. It's just not the same thing. We have a megachurch pastor declaring a win. We have national activists demanding an apology, and local organizers saying the fight hasn't even started yet, honey. So this is where we are when I say community is divided. Now, that's the actual real reporting. But I had to give my opinion, clearly. Come on. When I heard the boycott was over, I was like, who? Call me owl. Who? Who said it was over? And what organization? Let's look at the math again. Don't play me. I'm about to become Isaac Newton out this beat, okay? The numbers do not lie. So before the official boycott that was in 2025 that made the most noise, right, where people really started galvanizing and doing it, in 2024, before the boycott, Black buying power in this country, in the U.S., hit an estimated $1.8 trillion. And by 2027, I think next year, the projection in Black buying power is supposed to reach 2.1 trillion. And let's just be very clear about who's driving that Black buying power. It is Black women. Okay? Not only are we the primary decision makers when it comes to the household, we aren't just shoppers. We are the engine of the retail economy that keeps it moving, right? And that's just the honest truth. Pastor Jamal Bryant, you know that. Target You absolutely know that. You spent years courting us in the target circle, right? And you captured many of us. I was just talking to my good girlfriend who was invested in Target wholeheartedly, right? You invested in Black designers because you know when Black women say a brand is lit, it's it and it's up and it's stuck. And that's what was happening when you were doing that. It was proving very, very economically beneficial for you, Target. But when you roll back DEI, that doesn't just affect your consumers. That is about Black working people, people of color, not just Black people, but people of color, the LGBTQIA plus community, people with disabilities. So inclusivity doesn't just mean Black. It just doesn't. However, when we know what our buying power is, we do have a say in the fight. And that's why we're so vocal about it. In addition to culturally, we just like loud, and I love it. But what you did is, and again, and I talked about this before about Black women unemployment rate hovering at about 7.5% when the national average is 4. Honey, don't make me get on that soapbox. Don't make me get on that soapbox. What your initiatives were supposed to do, Target, was to ensure entrepreneurs have shelf space and that our professionals in the corporate setting have a seat at your table. But you want our money, but you don't value progress that has to come with that. And so to me personally, the answer is no. I'll be honest, I've never been a huge fan of Target just because where I live in Brooklyn, I'm kind of a mom and pop shop kind of girly. If you know Shoppers World, then you know what I'm talking about. If you know Mini Max, then you totally know what I'm talking about. But I will say this. I do have 2 Target sweater dresses that I refuse to give away because one, I bought it before the boycott, and because they literally are blankets in the form of clothing. They're so comfortable. And I'm going to keep them until they unravel. But am I going back for a third because they had more colors than the 2 I bought? Hell no. To the people who say the boycott is over because 3 out of those 4 demands were met, an apology isn't one of them. Investing dollars into Black-owned banks to scale Black business is not helping either. And policy reversals, all of that is in the fine print of these demands being met. So for those of you who still choose to shop there, I know many people who shop there still, celebrities who shop there still, it's whatever. I'm not here to pass judgment on you or to shopper shame you. That's not why I'm here. My only shame is to Target itself. We all have lives to live, and however you choose to live that with your own dollars is whatever you do. But I do want you to ask yourself this. Do you truly understand how the rolling back of DEI initiatives hurts our community in the long run? And again, for those of you who don't know who I am a clinical research professional by trade, which means I am heavy in the space of pharmaceutical companies and things like that. And that just feeds into my patient advocacy work and the disparities that affect people of color more often than not when it comes to chronic conditions such as diabetes, cancer, hypertension, you name it. Those DEI initiatives, those rollbacks occurred in pharma companies too. And I, as a patient advocate who works with nonprofits, shout out to Endometrial Cancer Action Network for African Americans, or ECANA for short, we are seeing that in real time, how it affects us in the work that we're trying to do. So if you don't really understand how DEI initiatives at Target hurt the community as a whole, just not how you shop, then I think that's a bigger conversation you probably need to have with yourself. Is the convenience of one-stop shopping worth it? Now, and these companies, which I noticed, those DEI initiative rollbacks happened literally when a new administration was put into office in 2025. Read the room. Now, before you get me and try to clock me, yes, I do shop at Amazon, but let me tell you something, honey. I have been in that Amazon matrix so long that I am the mayor of the sunken place that is called Amazon Prime. And I can't get out until something better. And when I say better, more convenient comes along. I still do try to not shop on Amazon as much, but honey, you get it. You know how it is, Prime. My Fire Stick. I mean, come on. But as for you, Target, until the respect is as loud as your marketing, my coins are staying right where they are, and that is in mom and pop shops. So again, Target, read the room. We are not just consumers, honey. We are the culture. And the culture in Target is officially out of stock. That's my take this week. This was episode number 9. I am so committed and dedicated. And I want to say, I'm going to give a shout out to Kiki Palmer. She might never see this, but I remember one time she had said about, if you want to do something, do it. And don't worry about who's watching. So if you want to do a podcast and you only get 1 view, do it every week. So me doing this 9 weeks in a row is a testament to myself that I know that I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And the feedback that I get, however small it is very impactful to me, and it keeps me pushing. So thank you to all of those who watch my reels, watch my full podcast when you can, watch my shorts, and, all those things. But if you have any topics that you ever want to talk about, this is a safe space for us. You can DM me. I am Opinionated Diva on Instagram. I am the Opinionated Diva on TikTok. I am the Opinionated Diva on YouTube, which is 2 E's. And I am Opinionated Diva on Spill. And I'm always going to give Spill my shout out till I make it to the top. Because I want to rise to the top. Like Force and Carriage, okay? Until episode 10, baby. Peace.